Welcome back, Babellion listeners, to another very special episode of the Oscar preview series of 2022. I'll give you 1 minute to clap for us. Thank you so much for clapping. My name is Joshua Afiriyie. This is my co-host, Caleb, J.A., Leanza.
Hi, I am the co-host, and we've done a couple episodes together so far of this series, and yeah, let's dive right into it. What awards did this movie get, and what is this movie that we just recently watched?
We are discussing CODA today. CODA was released in 2021, I believe, August 13th of 2021. Is nominated for 3 Oscars. 3 Oscars. That's so crazy. Best Picture, of course, then Best Adapted Screenplay, and Best Supporting Actor, which goes to Troy Kotsur. I don't know if I said his last name right. But yeah, three pretty strong Oscar nominations. I think all 3 are very well deserved. I enjoyed the movie thoroughly. It was a I've never quite seen anything like it. It was a very good story. I think the strongest thing about that film was its story. What about you, Caleb? How do you feel?
I agree. But I really enjoyed this. It was like you said, I never really watched anything like this, and I feel like there hasn't really been a movie like this due to having the main focus be a deaf family and having three out of the 4 family members being deaf. One of them was born not deaf. And quick side note, Titus looked this up while we were watching the movie with him, but it is more likely to have 2 deaf parents have a not deaf child comparatively to having another deaf child. And I found that really strange because it's like if you have like 2 of the same genes as parents, i.e. both being deaf, then you would think that like there is higher chance of that child being deaf as well. But there's actually a lower chance, which I found pretty interesting. Because like during the movie, I was like, how I feel like the probability of her being not deaf is pretty low, but yeah, it's reverse.
Yeah.
I was overhearing too, and you can kind of explain this a little bit more, but you're watching an interview or kind of getting the rundown or notes to take on, and they were saying that they were filming with kind of the sign language in mind, and it's one of like the first like accurate depiction of a deaf family. And I was like, wow, this movie, has a lot of wide angles. You don't really see a lot of close up on their faces. A lot. I was like, wow, throughout the movie I didn't really know why that was a thing or why they chose to shoot it like that way, because within movies you have a lot of close up on the actors' faces, the characters' faces, but within this movie it was like medium close up where you see from the chest up, and it wasn't a close up where it's just solely the face, and it allowed to see the sign language more, because that's how they communicate, and it's very hand based, and it's not solely with the mouth. And I actually kind of like this style of filming too in general, with the like aside from like the deaf perspective as well, because it allows you to see more of the scene, and I feel like you get a better understanding of the scenic around it and like the like scenic environment around it, because I felt like we were in the room with them during the conversations, where I feel like some movies kind of lack that when they have a lot of close-ups.
Yeah, that's a very good point. I feel like, yeah, it emphasized their location a lot more and their surroundings, their immediate surroundings. And I think that just made it easier for you to put yourself in the environment, especially because I think a huge part of the story is where it takes place. It's this like very small fishing town. Everybody's it seems like everybody knows each other. And yeah, the location is a big part of the story, So I think, the choice to use different kind of shots that showcase the environment a lot more, it was a good choice. It was a good choice. Yeah, the director made lots of really good choices that I liked. I like how, especially at the end of the film, there's this one scene where Ruby is performing her solo for the first time, and her family is deaf and they're sitting there watching them, and they obviously can't hear like her performance, and the director chose to drown out all the sound so you could really put yourself in the perspective of the deaf family. And that really hadn't happened up until that point. There was the one scene with the brother in the bar, but up until that point, you're really in Ruby's shoes throughout the entire story. So when we get this really subjective moment where we're in the place of the deaf family, it's jarring because you really spent so much time investing in this world that has so much sound and so much life, and that's taken away from you, and you really feel the struggle of this family to connect with Ruby, because there is that wall between them, right? She's in a different world than they are, and so they have to. I see, like, you see them looking around to see everybody else's faces, to see like how is everyone else reacting to this. It's a really powerful character moment, and they already spent so much time like getting us so invested in the family and getting us to care about Ruby and the family, that it was a good moment and a good choice at the right time.
I agree, and I like you brought up a good point too, and it kind of got me thinking like throughout the performance, you kind of have the thought process, or at least I did, kind of that they were being like a little bit rude, like, oh, like what are we going to have for dinner? Not really, like in some moments, not really like fully having their full attention onto the performance. And I was like kind of mixed feelings because it's like they obviously can't hear it. It's not them being rude. It's just that they can't.
They literally can't.
Yeah, they literally can't like hear it. And I think it was just like a misunderstanding or of me not being able to be put in their shoes, because I don't like we don't know what it's like being deaf. We hear we hear a lot of things. And within that moment, it made it a completely silence. And it was like, oh wow, okay, we were put into their environment and kind of understand their perspective a lot more. Obviously, we can't fully like understand their perspective because like we can still hear things, and within like even when we're in a silent room, we're still hearing things. Like if we're by ourselves, with whether that's car noises, outside noises, or the hum of like an air conditioning, birds chirping, etc., etc. There's small, minute environmental sounds that we always hear, so we're not completely in silence. And that kind of put us in the environment where it's completely silence, like they don't hear everything, and they have to rely on other people's reactions to see if it's good, or like if their child is performing good or not, because like they have no idea if their child is actually doing well. And it was just a very good point in time.
And to summarize what CODA is about for those who haven't seen this movie, which is like, why are you? You should be what? Don't watch the movie. Watch the movie. But basically, CODA is about this deaf family, and it's 4 people: the parents, mother and father, the brother, and then the sister. The entire family is deaf except for the daughter. Except for the daughter, she's the only one who can hear. So the story, it's based on. It got nominated for adapted screenplay because it's based on a different film, this French film that was made like a couple years ago. I don't know when, but that film got placed under fire because I think their casting choices, they didn't choose to cast deaf actors, which CODA actually took the time and the work to actually do, and it comes through in the film a lot. And I keep saying the story is so powerful, and I think one of the reasons it's so powerful is because the director who wrote the screenplay, I think she did a very good job of surrounding herself with people who came from the community and who could really speak to the experiences that Ruby was feeling, that the entire Deaf family was feeling, so that they were really telling an authentic story. And an authentic story is so, so powerful. And I think CODA is such a good reminder of the power of storytelling and a good story.
I think we're seeing a kind of a change within our how kind of films are filmed in the last couple of years, especially this year, because I feel like this really emphasized the environment and have been the focus of kind of telling like a biopic. This wasn't really a biopic, but this kind of reminded me of when we were talking about how with the King Richard episode, kind of putting in place of like African American people, and and we were both agreeing how it represented kind of how African Americans like grew up really well. And we kind of seen that element within this movie, using like actual deaf people instead of just hiring non-deaf people.
Right.
And I feel like this shift within like Hollywood and kind of these independent companies too, because like this was produced by Apple and with Netflix as well. Like those are like their separate productions. I mean, they're probably filmed within Hollywood, but we're seeing more production companies, which means that we get more different aspects and different perspectives. And I really like this shift because it makes for a lot better storytelling, a lot better movie, because you can actually get like growth within the story.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. There were so many like just powerful moments, like like there was this one scene where Ruby and her father, after her performance, like the father kind of hangs back for a second and they're sitting on the pickup truck, and the father, like, because obviously he can't hear Ruby singing, so he takes a moment to just feel her sing and what the vibrations feel like. And I literally teared up. I started crying at that moment because it's just like, and I love the way the story is told and the lack of dialogue, because body language is our main form of communication. I think when you break it down, it's like body language is 60% of all communication, which you don't really realize because we're so focused on hearing each other all the time. But with CODA, it's like, wow, like I can't imagine taking that screenplay and having it translated with such physicality and feeling. It's like I'm like watching these characters interact with each other on screen, and there's no dialogue, but I can feel it more almost, because the characters are so expressive and the actors are so expressive in the way they're communicating things. And so that makes the story stronger. It just made the story so much stronger because you could really, I think it was a great way to connect the audience with the characters and the world, honestly.
I agree, and we're forced to focus on body language too. Exactly like what you said. We're always focused on what people are saying, but within this movie, I kind of that's why like we're able to connect with them. Because you said 60% of like our how we communicate is through our body language, and if over half of it is our body language, then we can connect to that a lot more. And they did a really, really good job with that. I never thought of that perspective until you brought it up, because I'm like, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm like, wow, like there is a lot of how we communicate is through body language, and it's just kind of weird to think about it that way. And then also too, I wanted to bring up the sound design as well, because I thought the sound design was really, really good. And this was kind of nostalgic because when I was growing up, I lived in the woods. I didn't live near an ocean, and I didn't have this. I had like my life comparatively to how they lived,
Right.
with like having to go out fishing and that
At
as
3 a.m. in the morning.
3 a.m. in the
Bye.
morning.
You can miss me with that. I can't wake
Exactly.
up for work at 8 a.m.
Yeah.
So
I'm up until 3 a.m.
yeah.
But kind of like what I'm getting at is more of how they were outside and kind of how you can hear the crickets. You kind of have the feeling of they're outside. It's a small town because I grew up in like a small townish area where it's kind of like you walk outside and it's just nature. And when they walk outside of their house, it's just nature, you know. They have obviously like boats and houses and stuff, but like when they go out, it's like the ocean or it's like some woods surrounding them. And that kind of made me really feel of like when I was like a little kid, like going around my neighborhood at nighttime and just hearing the crickets and stuff and just having the moonlight like as the only light source. And that I think the sound design did a really good job of placing us within the film as well, along with how they filmed it, like we said earlier as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Even just helping us experience Ruby subjectively, like through the lens of her character. I think the sound design, the songs they pick, the soundtrack they picked, the songs they had like her sing and the choir singing, like it was all just, it was like slightly unexpected because I wasn't expecting a lot of the music that I was hearing in the film, but it was very warm. It was very nostalgic, and I think the general tone of this film, it's so family oriented that the music kind of fits, and even the choice to like, you know, have it, it's like it's such a refreshing take on coming of age and, you know, the typical like small town girl trope who has like some hidden talent. She wants to like follow her own path and carve out her own dreams. It's a very refreshing take on the genre that does such a good job of illuminating the experiences of a community that I don't think we get to see a lot on screen at all. I did a paper my sophomore year. Actually, I don't really remember like anything I wrote in that paper, not gonna lie. But I did a paper on the representation of disabled characters in film and media, and there's not a lot of mainstream characters, and there's not a lot of good representation as a whole. So I think when, you know, a non-disabled director taking on a project like this and creating a product that was CODA is just like, people need to like learn from that. That's such a great example of what you can do as somebody who doesn't belong to the community to still tell a good, authentic story about people that you respect and people that you admire and people that need their stories put in the mainstream. And props to the Oscar committee for nominating this.
I agree. I 100% agree. And that just reminded me of like, even when disabled people are represented within movies, more than likely they're not actually disabled. Like Glee.
Yeah, the actor.
Yeah, the actor that's like themselves. Like with the, I don't know his name. What's his name? In Glee.
Artie.
Like he's not like actually disabled, and it's like you're without having that disability, then it misses a lot of understanding because the actor doesn't understand what it's like to be disabled. And if once you get an actor who is actually disabled that you're trying or have the disability that you're trying to represent, then the actor can actually like it takes away the element of acting the disability, you know, because they don't have to act the disability because they have the disability,
right?
And it takes that element of acting away. And again, like there are really good actors, but it makes it more personal and more real, where you don't have to act that part. You can focus on acting the dialogue with the interactions and stuff, because like you're actually being that person within the film. Like you don't have to act,
do that extra step.
Yeah, and it makes it more real too. And with the family aspect as well, they did I agree with you there as well, because they did a really good job of making it family oriented. Like I felt like I was within their family, and they made it so that it's more realistic. I felt. I'm trying to think of ways they kind of implemented that, but it's just like I felt like that was actually how a family, like that's actually how their family interacted, even though they're not related at all. Like they're not actually a family, but if that they were a family, I imagine that's how they would actually interact with themselves on a day-to-day basis, where we have some other films where you don't really see that. You don't really see a family act together. There's some element of like fakeness, or this family's not actually real, you know?
Yeah.
And there's always that element to when, or at least to me when I'm watching film, like there's always that element of like, all right, like these people aren't actually family and they're acting. And yeah, I think they did a really good job of placing that into it. It reminds me of Shameless as well. How the actors portrayed that family as the Gallaghers, because I feel like I was put in the place, and that's actually how that family is. I would imagine how that family would actually interact with themselves, and they did a good job with that within this film too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think family is it's a great way to get anyone invested in a story, because we all know, or we all have experienced family to some degree, and it's a good angle to sort of get the audience invested and make a great story out of it. Yeah.
I agree. And Ruby, that actress, I love that actress, and I wanted to see her in more things, because I just randomly one day, like a couple of years ago, I started like the Lock and Key series. I don't know if that's
the name of it. I've seen it on Netflix.
Yeah, but she like acted really well within that series, and I love that series. I'm like, I need to see more of this actress. And I was, for like the first few minutes, I was like, wait, is that her? But then I was like, oh yeah, that's obviously her. But she's a really good actor, and she played that role really well.
Yeah, I love when you like are watching something and you can't tell if the actor is who you think it is, and you're like, do I Google? Do I not Google? No, but Claudia said this to me one time, and I think it's so true. Like, acting, I think it does have to come from a truthful place, and a lot of times that comes from your own experiences. And so when you're casting people who don't know the perspective, it's a choice. I don't know if that's the best choice in terms of like relaying an authentic character and delivering an authentic performance, but the director didn't choose to do that here, and that was great. That was good. That was a good thing to do.
Yeah. He wouldn't have guessed that a deaf actor could play a deaf person within a film good.
I never would have guessed before this movie. Yeah, honestly.
Like, honestly, this movie opened my eyes. I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
Like deaf actors playing deaf characters is a good move. I'm like, wow.
Oof. We are walking such a thin comedic line right now.
Yes, I think we did a good job.
Yes, we did. Let's pat ourselves on the back for not.
Yeah, because we kept it very sarcastical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, did you say sarcastical?
It's not even a word.
Yes, it is now. I have no more thoughts on this film. Other than that, it was great.
I agree. And final thought. I was saying this to you before, but I swear to God, if Apple becomes a fucking film company, that's going to be the death of me. Apple already runs our lives, but if they freaking make a film company that makes actually good films like this one, I will be very, very mad. And I will refuse to watch any Apple movie other than this one. That's all I have to say.
Listen, I ain't getting that Apple TV subscription unless it's free, okay? So, Netflix, HBO Max is $15 a month. I guarantee you, in the next 2 years, Netflix will be $20 a month. They just keep jacking up the price. It's already 20?
It's already 20. They just jacked it up like a couple weeks ago.
Well, you probably have like the big family plan, don't you? Because I just have the one with me and my sister, but I don't think that's at 20 yet. It's at like 15.
Are you paying for it?
No, my sister's paying for it. But I pay for HBO Max, so we trade and it cuts even.
I'm pretty sure it's 20 now. I don't know.
Well, it'll be 30 in 2023. So we going to hell, y'all. We all it's going down. It's all downhill from here.
It's down. It's basically cable at this point. But better. But
yeah.
I guess we can end it here.
This is true. Bye, guys. Bye. Share this video with all of your friends and your family and your loved ones and even the people you don't love. Go out in the street and show them this video and tell them Babellion Studios is the next big thing. You're gonna regret not following us from the very beginning, because one day we're gonna be big and you're gonna be like, I wish I followed Babellion Studios when they had 122 followers on Instagram and not when they have 500,000 followers on Instagram and they produced an Oscar nominated film made by somebody from Babellion. Any of us or all of us, maybe. It's gonna be a big hit, and so is this studio company. So buckle in and strap your seats, because this is gonna be a wild ride down like the West.
Yes.
Like the wild West. It's gonna be like the new frontier, baby. But it's gonna be the film industry, and we're gonna be like Ringo Kid in that one movie Stagecoach. If you ever seen it, we're gonna be like that guy, and we're just gonna get out there and discover new things about the film industry and pave all sorts of roads and find things in the desert, like new film techniques and inclusive casting. And
I'm gonna do this until it stops.
I'm gonna do this until we hit the 30-minute mark. You think I'm joking? I'm not. We're gonna explore the Wild West. We're gonna be like those two people who explored the river, that one river. They went on an expedition and they found stuff. We're gonna be like those people, or the Louisiana Gold Rush. We're gonna be like those people, except we're gonna get there first, and we're gonna be like, hey guys, here's all the gold. Come here. Then everybody's gonna come. And everybody's gonna be like, wow, thanks for telling us where this gold was. I wish we had listened to you when you had 122 followers on Instagram, and not when you have 500,000 followers on Instagram. Did I say 500,000? I meant 1 million. Did I say 1 million? I meant 2 million. We're gonna be the next A24, baby. Just you wait. A24 is gonna be like, Babellion, you should just become our parent company. We're gonna buy A24, and then we're gonna buy Paramount and MGMT and Warner Bros. and Lionsgate and Marvel Studios. They're gonna buy that too. We're gonna buy Disney. We're gonna be the next big monopoly, except we're gonna be a legal monopoly that nobody can stop, because the government doesn't care about antitrust laws and stopping companies from becoming big monopolies. That's why we have stuff like Amazon and Disney. They own so much stuff. They literally control our lives. I bet the Amazon Alexa and then 2 rooms down is listening to everything I'm saying, and I'm probably gonna get an ad for a Warner Bros. Movie like the Batman, which we got free tickets to thanks to our roommate Titus, who is the co-founder of Babellion.
Hey Alexa. Damn it, that one died.
That didn't work.
That would have been a funny joke.
It was a terrible joke. Caleb's not funny. Please remind him anytime you see him, Caleb is not funny. How much time do I have left? 6 seconds.